This painting was another painting done by Slawa, and it's the Chinese merchant. And what you see here is Jesus is in Corinth. And that was the happiest time of his life, the 19 months where he went on the Mediterranean tour. He'd just gotten away from his huge family responsibility. He's the interpreter, he's the tutor, he loves Ganid, he's meeting people in the world. And in this setting, he meets this Chinese merchant, Chang. And he talks about the great spirit ancestor, because of course the Chinese had ancestor worship. And Jesus says there is the great spirit ancestor of all, the Heavenly Father. And he goes on and tells him that after this world, Jesus will see him in the next world. It's a beautiful story. And what's also great about it, you see an East Indian boy, you see Chang, the Chinese merchant, and then you see the Greeks. What a mixture of culture and what a mixture of people that Jesus came to know during those 19 wonderful months of his life. The Urantia book refers to this as his personal ministry years compared to the public ministry years, which is picked up in the New Testament. Jesus in this painting is 28 years old. During this brief interlude in Corinth, he met with a miller, he met with a prisoner in his last hour of life, a Roman guard, an Epicurean. He met with a Greek innkeeper. He met with a whole series of people and had these great exchanges with them. One fun story about this painting. Slawa has done a number of the paintings in this collection, and she's been, along with a couple of other artists, the go-to artist to illustrate some of these scenes of Jesus's life that no one has ever seen. So in this collection, we wanted new stuff, vivid stuff, important stuff, but that nobody in the world had ever heard of. And Slawa has been very willing to paint all those scenes out of the Urantia book. She's a Christian, but she's been totally happy painting the scenes. So this painting was a funny experience. In the development of paintings, we agree on a scene, people sketch out the paintings, I look at the sketches, then they do a color sketch so we can kind of agree on the color of the painting. Slawa has never been really fond of showing me a painting a month later, 2 months later. She likes to get the clearance and then paint. So she sends me, when she thinks she's finished the painting, a photograph of the painting. And I look at Jesus and something is really bothering me about that painting. I liked Chang, I liked Ganid. Jesus was wrong. And so I went and visited her. I wanted to talk to her about it personally. Went to visit her, and her son opens the door. Now you got to remember that Slawa is a portrait artist. Very different than a landscape artist, a portrait artist. She uses models like all portrait artists do. The person that answers the door is her 32-year-old Polish son. And that's who she's painted into the painting. He's leaving the house. I go in and I talk to Slawa and I said, Slawa, you've done so many paintings of Jesus, you know he wasn't Polish. You used your son as the model. She broke out in tears and she said, my Jesus is Polish. That response from her just, it warmed my heart. It broke my heart. It warmed my heart. And it helped me understand some of the process these artists go through. They pour their heart and soul into these paintings. One of our artists takes a long time because he goes through so much inner spiritual stuff to get the painting of Jesus out the door. I said to Slawa, oh, you've touched my heart. Your Jesus is Polish, but you got to change the painting. Jesus wasn't Polish. So you can see in this painting, she painted Jesus as he should have been painted. Another interesting point with the artist and the stories of these artists is when we first started doing this collection, Jesus traditionally had been painted in the last 100 years with long hair, and he never had anything on his head. Well, from the Urantia book's teachings, at the foot of the cross, there was a turban. Well, of course, Jesus wore either a yarmulke-like thing, a turban-like thing. So we went in a process of discovering 5 or 6 different head coverings that Jesus might have worn during that period of his life or any period of his life. And I would show the artist and say, pick any one of the head coverings you want, but make sure that you have a head covering. When I first asked Slava to do it, she said, my Jesus does not look like a terrorist. I can't do it. But she experimented. You look at her painting. Some of them, she has a yarmulke-looking thing on his head. This painting, it's kind of a shortened turban kind of look. She's done a great job with the head covering, and so has most of the other artists. The other point is, I've really worked hard, and it's not been totally successful with the artist to get Jesus have a haircut, because back then, men with long hair were considered to be effeminate, and real men had short hair. It's funny because all the pictures of Jesus are with Jesus with long hair, but that's not the way it was back then, historically inaccurate.